Hey everybody, Mr. Youngman here. Today we're going to be doing a speed run of the GMetrix Practice Test assignment for Photoshop. Let's go ahead and get started by opening GMetrix. We can do that using the Spotlight search. That's the magnifying glass at the top right. And we're going to search for GMetrix. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that's going to launch the GMetrix application. Now the GMetrix application is a little different from the web interface. It will not allow us to do sign in with Google. So if you haven't already created a GMetrix password using the previous assignment, make sure you check that one out and set yourself up with a GMetrix password. I'm going to use that newly created password to get signed in here. Now once we're signed in, we're going to go to the test section of GMetrix here on the left, and we're going to do new test. I'm going to make sure we select Adobe Certified Professional 2020 to 2023. In future years, this may change, and I will probably make a note in class letting you know which one to pick. For now, though, I'm going to click on that one and select Professional PS, that's Photoshop. I'm going to do Practice Exam 1 in this case. Be very careful that we want to select Training Mode. Training Mode will help us to get prepared for when we do Testing Mode, and will offer us a few helpful hints along the way. Selecting Training Mode here, we're going to do Start a New Test, and we're going to select our classroom code. If you're not sure which one is the correct one, honestly, it probably does not make that big of a difference. As long as you have a code available, let's go ahead and use it. So in this case, I will select My Advanced 0, and that's going to go ahead and start opening up the GMetrix assessment. Now this is going to take some time to load. Once this finishes loading, Photoshop will open automatically. Let's cut ahead to that moment in time. And presto changeo, Photoshop has finished loading along with the GMetrix interface here on the right, which is fantastic news. Make sure that your Photoshop window is big enough to see everything at once. You can just grab the corners here, stretch them out, and make that window nice and big to make sure we can see everything we need to see. On this first question, it's asking us to answer a few drop-down options from these lists here. But if we don't know the answer to that, that's where Training Mode really shines. If we click on this Help button at the bottom, it will give us a bunch of useful information that will help us to answer that question. Try not to rely on these helpful hints too much though. Eventually you will be tasked with completing these steps or these questions without the assistance of the Help button. I'm going to skip ahead to a little bit more of an interesting question here. Okay, we have reached our first question that's going to task us with actually doing something inside of Adobe Photoshop. In this case, it's asking us to change the grid line options inside of Photoshop. To complete this, once again, we're going to rely on that Help button just to get us started. If we click on Help, you'll see that it walks us through everything we need to do in order to complete this task. Once we're completed with this step, we're going to go ahead and hit Next. I'm going to skip ahead to after I complete this step to show you what happens when we hit Next. All right, I've made sure that I've followed the steps to a T. Now let's go ahead and press that Next button and see what happens. And voila, it will check your answers in real time and make sure that you know what you're doing so you're ready for that certification exam when we take it later on. Again, we're going to skip ahead just a little bit here. Once we reach the end, we will have access to a Submit Test button. Yours may look a little bit different from this, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and select Submit Test, and that will take us to our test results page. Now in this case, I've skipped over a large majority of the questions, so if I look at my score once this pops up, I'm guessing I'm not going to do so hot, but that's perfectly okay. Like I mentioned earlier, when I'm checking the grades for this, I'm not necessarily looking for 100%. If we check the rubric, it will show us what scores we need to achieve in testing mode to get either a perfect 4 out of 4, 3 out of 4, 2 out of 4, or 1 out of 4. So make sure you're checking out that rubric for more information. Once we get to our results page, we're going to go ahead and screenshot our results using Command-Shift-4, pressing spacebar, and then clicking on our results page. This will take a screenshot that we're able to turn in on Google Classroom to show me how you did. That's going to wrap up this one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all back in class.